The way we got Roastar started was looking at and discovering who coffee roasters were and what their problems were.
You're going to get unmatched, legendary customer experience here from start to finish.
Roastar has evolved a ton over the last few years. We've invested in new equipment and technologies. We have really put a lot of effort into continuous improvement out on the shop floor.
What I'm most proud of with Roastar is I love how they seek cutting-edge technology.
We also make things that are really cool for really cool customers too.
We're really interested in getting to know our customer and discovering what we can do to help them out.
See an alert pop up there. It was super random that when I was looking for a photo of Chuck for the podcast we put out today, that it was a picture that he had posted with you. There was only 3 pictures of him, and that was one of them. So I'm going to get started here, and I do that every show by saying hello. Welcome to the Coffee People podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Wolt. The show is presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging, found online at roastar.com. The Coffee People pod is part of our Roast West Coast Coffee Network. You can go to roastwestcoast.com to find recaps, our Coffee Smarter podcast, so much more. And if you haven't poured yourself a cup of coffee, I just poured myself a Costa Rica yellow honey from Coffeewomple. Now is the time. I'm also very excited because I don't normally drink coffee in the afternoons when we're talking. Our guests today are, and I want to make sure I say this right, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole Bolea and Zach Whitney, the co-founders and owners of Coffeewomple in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can find them online at coffeewomple.com. Of course, we'll have those links in our podcast show notes. Welcome, Zach and Nicole. I appreciate you being here.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it too. And you nailed the intro.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks for having us.
It's something that I've been practicing. It's like a new thing for the show. Coffeewomple, one word or two?
One word.
One word.
Okay. I'm going to learn all about you guys, but before we get into that, I read that Coffeewomple is a take on the word cottywomple. Could you tell us what that means and why the connection?
Yeah, so cottywomple is an Old Welsh kind of slang term that means to go to an unknown destination purposefully. We kind of wanted to jump into roasting and see what we're doing, but not really know where it's going to take us. And also getting outside and just going for those adventures and hanging out. And, when we go on vacation, we don't fully plan things out. And so it's just kind of a way we live.
That is commendable. I start planning my trips months and months in advance, knowing that none of it will go as I plan, especially now when we're, working around fires and, tornadoes and whatever weather. But it's something that is a real challenge for me, and I'm actively working on. At least that's what I tell my therapist. I'm wondering if you could give us a little background on the two of you. How did you meet and kind of get started on this process? And if you have any first coffee memories that, inspired you think back and go, oh, that might have been the start of something.
Sure. So we met in engineering school. So we're both, nerds by background. We met up in Duluth, where we both went to school for engineering. And Zach was working at the coffee shop then or later while we were in school. And I've always really loved coffee. I'm embarrassed probably about what I thought was good coffee a long time ago. But I've always had, even as a poor college student, always bought my own whole bean coffee and ground it. And I'd been drinking it since I was 16 or younger and grew up around it. And so passionate about coffee, but obviously recently we've kind of taken it to the next level. But I'll switch over to you, Zach, and you can give the barista side.
Like Nicole said, we met at UMD, and I worked at the campus coffee shop. We met in physics class, though, so not at the coffee shop.
No.
But in high school, I worked at Caribou Coffee. It was my first job. And so I kind of went through their training program and learning about coffee. And then I worked at a school coffee shop. And then I served and bartended when I was in school as well during the summer. So I've kind of been in that service industry and that side of things for quite some time.
Yeah, you're in Minneapolis now, south of Duluth. I'd point out to anyone listening, Duluth has been in the news a lot as a climate haven.
Yes.
Very long winters. As a former Wisconsinite, even I looked at Duluth and went, "Oh no, like that's going to be long." Does coffee mean something different when you are living in a cold environment than it does for the rest of us? I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
I definitely prefer to take a hot mug of coffee with me, Just having something warm in the car when you're traveling in the cold is never a bad idea.
Yeah, I can't imagine like starting out the day with cold coffee, even when it's really hot out, just because, yeah, I always start with a hot cup of coffee regardless. Like we just came back from a trip to Orangina, Honduras, and it was hot there, but I'm still going to drink hot coffee. But yeah, so it's definitely a part of like in Minnesota, and like I'm not Norwegian. I guess maybe you are a little bit, but there's a lot of that Scandinavian culture of like very, dark, hot coffee, right?
Yeah, dark hot coffee, a little bit of a sauna, hop in the
Mhm.
ice, in the icy water, and then back to it. Before you were in coffee, you mentioned you met at UMD and you were both in engineering school science. I think science it all is a blur for me. I took like astronomy in high school. That was kind of the end of it. What were you doing before you started Coffeewomple? That was the thing that you were thinking was going to be your life.
Well, we're still doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing building electrical design. I work for a electrical engineering consulting firm, and we do mechanical design as well. So working on commercial buildings, designing buildings, breweries. I've worked on breweries, coffee shops, high rises, you name it. So
You designed the transformer that powered our roaster.
Oh, that's cool. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds very cool. What about you, Nicole? What was your path out of college before Coffeewomple?
So similarly, we fondly refer to Coffeewomple as our 5 to 9, but for 9 to 5 grind, backgrounds in chemical engineering, but I've always been in the environmental space and super passionate about that. And right now work for a company, and we design, manufacture, supply equipment for drinking water for like big cities. So yeah, water quality, it's important to me, obviously, and especially with climate change and scarcity, it's going to continue to be an issue, just like how it's affecting coffee, right?
Sure. It's something that my wife and I think about as we look at places in the world to move. We don't consider places that maybe we don't think have a water-friendly future, at least in our lifetimes. When did coffee become something that you guys were doing together, let's say, become this discussion of, hey, this is something more than just we're waking up, having a hot cup of coffee?
Yeah, Zach was roasting in our kitchen, like at home. What was that? Like almost 4 years ago now, just for fun. And I was like, this is really good. And we've done all sorts of things. Like we've brewed beer, we've made cheese, we've tried all these things as hobbies, but no one's ever wanted to buy that before. You know what I mean? Like we've never made beer that people are lining up to take home with them, but it was different with coffee. And I was going through my MBA program at the same time. So I'm like an engineer turned business person. And yeah, I was like, this could be a fun adventure for us. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship.
So you were roasting coffee at home and then giving it to people and asking for opinions. I mean, did you feel confident doing that? I think there's always a turning point where when you make something the first time you think, you know what, I think this is good, but I think other people will also think it's good. Any nervousness
Yeah.
going into that, or how long between that point and then going, no, we're gonna try to start a business.
So that kind of first year of kitchen roasting on a fresh roast, I was playing around with different stuff, and we went to a local coffee showcase or whatever of local roasters. And some of the stuff I tried was, I'm like, I think I got something that's pretty dang good. It stacks up with some of these. I wonder,
You're like, we could do this too. Like maybe foolishly, now. But it also was cool to see the people that were really passionate about it, how they were bringing out these just crazy flavors that I didn't know coffee could taste like strawberries. Like that blew my mind. And so that also put us down a rabbit hole of chasing fun stuff too to roast ourselves.
Yeah.
The idea that you're making something, and you also have these full-time careers. There's I don't want to call it a conceit, but there has to be this idea that we can do this well enough in the time that we have to justify not just the expense, but also that we're giving it out to the world and asking them to give us something in return. What made you think that you were the right couple to do that? What made you think you could work together on a business, which is a different type of relationship than you had previously?
Yeah, I think we're also driven by, like, back to the environmental. We're both super passionate about the environment, having our own business and doing it in a way that's more sustainable and not caring about, like, we get to make the decision because we know this is the best choice long term. This is the most sustainable option, not this is the best option for our bottom line. And so it's really freeing to be able to do that. And then, I don't know, you put up with me?
We're still working on that part. That's a never ending thing,
Do you have like distinctive roles in the business, or is it just kind of what is occurring today and we work on it together?
Yeah, we definitely have like our division of labor, if you will, to play to our strengths. And then a lot of it is ultimately collaborative though. Like we're a true partnership, like inside, outside of the business. We see each other as equals. We do things together. We enjoy, like, I wouldn't do this otherwise. Like, I love spending time with you. Like, it's just easy and it's more fun together. I couldn't imagine trying to do this by yourself. Like, it's so hard doing a small business to not be all in and not have a partnership with that, I think would be more challenging than maybe when we don't always agree.
Right. Yeah. And like, as I'm roasting and she's packaging or whatever and filling that, we're using our free time, so to speak, as best we can and just divide and conquer and work toward that same goal.
It says on your website that, I'm quoting here, the passion for good coffee and the outdoors collide. You get Coffeewomple. When the passion for good coffee and the outdoors collide, you get Coffeewomple. When you have free time that allows you to get out into the outdoors, what's the adventures that you're looking for?
We're headed to Colorado to go hit the mountains. So we'll be snowboarding. We're going to dabble in some split boarding for the first time that I'm super excited about. What else do we do?
I go ice fishing on Lake Superior. So always making a cup out there is like little joys, especially when the fish aren't there. We like to take our dogs places. So we've been, going mountain biking in North Carolina or just, I don't know, trying to take them with too. And so we really just travel all over Honduras.
Yep.
We went to Japan earlier this year. I mean, honestly, it's been kind of crazy. And just like bringing coffee with us everywhere we've gone has just like, I don't know, you go looking for that different side of things that maybe you wouldn't normally. It's just a different people than what I am normally seeing or working with on a job site. And it's other creators of coffee and flavors. And, you want to know what they think. They want to know what you think. So there's like a lot of community built there. Even if there's language barriers or whatever that may be, there's still that foundation of coffee that can really, bring people together.
You get back from a trip like Honduras or North Carolina or Japan or something. Yeah, I'm assuming those are invigorating and inspiring. How do you then turn that into the business? How does that impact what you're doing day to day?
Yeah, Honduras is the easy example, right? Because we were there, trip to origin. We were with the Farmer to Farmer nonprofit group that we roast for, and they import from Guatemala and Honduras. And so having that connection directly to the farmer is really impactful. I think when you're at those coffee farms and you're talking to the coffee farmers about what they're dealing with, the impacts of climate change are so much more real. I mean, you in California obviously feel it, but in Minnesota, we're privileged to so far, not feel as maybe dramatic of effects. Unless you're a farmer, they're still hurting for sure. So I don't want to diminish any of that, but it's just so real down there.
It is 46 degrees though on January 30th.
That's true.
Here in Minnesota. There's no snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'd point out you're saying that's warm.
That is warm.
Anyone listening.
It is not above. Normally this time it's, at or around 0.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And on the other side of things, I'm here in Southern California today. I'm headed out to Joshua Tree on Monday. They had snow in Joshua Tree this past weekend, and our nights are getting into the low 40s. And it's definitely this kind of weird kind of things are mixed up. Most of my family's still in Wisconsin, so I always wait every year for those snow pictures, and they just have not been coming.
Nope. Florida got more snow in January than Minnesota this year.
Something's not wrong now. I don't know.
I mean, it's just everything is upside down. And that brings me to this idea or this question I have for you. You mentioned earlier starting a sustainable business. You mentioned the value that has to you and that you can make decisions in part because you have full-time jobs that you think are just best for what you want out of, your values and your ethos. Not every small startup business has that option. So that's a great thing to take advantage of. I'm wondering, as you're going through this process and you're looking into packaging and you're looking into the impact that your business has, you're very familiar with how water impacts a community with your other career, Nicole. Do you find hope in the things that you're seeing out there, or do you actually see it to be a bigger challenge than maybe you realized to have a sustainable business of your own?
We're hoping so. You firsthand have gotten one of our fully compostable bags, and it showed up blown up.
I wasn't going to say anything.
That's okay. That is 100% what we've been up against this entire time when sourcing compostable packaging. It's not strong enough. It's not whatever. So this is finally a fully printed bag, and after yours showed up blown up, I went and grabbed the next 5 bags out of the box and tried to punch out the bottom, and I couldn't right away. So I have no clue what happened on that one, but it's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's extremely frustrating. There isn't enough demand yet, at least in the U.S., to drive more sustainable options when it comes to packaging. Because 90% of people seem to buy a package, rip it open, put their coffee in another container or whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. And at least when it comes to specialty coffee. And if we can eliminate some of that waste and just, have it be better, then that's important to us. So we went from our labels falling off our other bags and, you can't get on the shelf if your label falls off, and they're half blowing in the wind at the farmer's market. You find that the people that care, and they don't care that your label's falling off, but to go somewhere and be on a shelf or push into that kind of longer market, no way. So I understand why people go with more robust packaging and easier solutions. I mean, it took us over a year probably to even find someone that would make this for us.
Do you think you'll ever get to a point in this business where it meets the sustainability baseline? I've got to stop saying sustainable. I'm going to just be slurring all over the place. Where it meets the baseline for what you would hope in your dreamland of environmental sustainability that's also a business making money. Do you think it's possible to get to that point? Or is it just kind of a never ending, every day it's like we're going to make some sort of decision or compromise to take one step forward?
I think ultimately there is we're all, the nihilistic view is that none of us are sustainable. No business is sustainable, right? That we are all burdening the earth in some way. And so I think it's always a challenge to do better. And I think it's important that we're aware of what the better options are. But if we don't, as businesses or consumers or people demand that, it's never going to become more economical. We just watched a PBS documentary last night, and they're talking about how the projections for solar, wind, all of these more sustainable forms of energy were a lot more pessimistic than what is happening in the real world. I can't talk either in terms of economics. So we didn't think it would be as economical as it is to do solar right now, 10, 15 years ago, but it is. So I think sometimes these models are a little more pessimistic. And I think it's the same thing. If we all just keep demanding slightly better choices, it will become the norm, right? Our business as usual should continue to get better.
You just mentioned solar. California just set a record for the number of days that we went in a row where we depended solely on renewable energy. And that was a really cool thing. We went 98 straight days where they didn't use any sort of energy that wasn't wind or water or solar. But then I got my energy bill and it was the same or more than it had been the month before. And you go, well, wait a minute. How does that work? And the reality is we generationally are essentially paying for the energy sins of our forefathers. We're paying for upgrading systems. We're paying for lawsuits from fires. We're paying for all these other things. In my case, all of the energy in my apartment is coming from renewable energy, but I pay a tax to use the outlets essentially from the company that has them. And so is it a challenge or is it even possible to educate a customer that they should want this stuff if they're not seeing, what you're going through or the benefit? How much is that part of your story? And how much should it be part of the story as opposed to just, this is a great cup of coffee compared to, what you might else be getting somewhere?
I think what we've learned is there are people it resonates with that's important for. There's people we've met at these markets that reach out to us as a resource for things about composting and things that are more sustainable because of our background. But at the end of the day, the coffee still has to be awesome, I think, to be successful. Like we can't have a mid product and greenwash things to sell it, right? Like the coffee still has to be good and on point and just as good, or if not better than everybody else's. So
right. The package has not sold the coffee today.
No.
In fact, it probably only hurt it.
Definitely with our labels falling off for sure.
And bottom line in general, using compostable packaging and the labels and everything, and then just that cost, upfront cost has always been higher. To keep your coffee the same or competitive price with everybody else, like, again, we just wrapped it in and understood that we're going to make whatever less per package, and that's just the way it's going to be. So we feel good about it. And
right. I just, come back to I don't want to be a part of the problem. I'm not going to be the reason that more single-use plastic exists forever on this earth. And so that's just how it is.
I want the audience to understand what Co-Founders as a business is right now. Could you give us just kind of like a description of where you're at in the life of this business? I mean, is there retail? Is it wholesale? Is there a place people can go to taste Co-Founders, for example? Where is the business today?
Yeah, so we opened our commercial or expanded. So we were roasting out of our house, expanded into a commercial space this past summer. And upgraded to a much larger roaster because we were saying no to a lot of retail, wholesale opportunities like that. So now we're trying to capitalize on those opportunities. So we're hyper-focused on wholesale, a little bit of retail. We, of course, have the e-commerce piece. And then we also roast for other people. Zach has this amazing ability to roast whatever bean. I mean, we've taken some professional classes and shout out to Bryant, who was on the podcast earlier. He's an incredible teacher and works locally here at Mill City. So we roast for other people as well too, and help white label and then create their vision as well. So he was just profiling some Vietnamese coffee, for example, for a potential client. So it's just fun too, is what we're doing, I guess. But that's the whole business right now is we have our brand. We're roasting for a couple other people, trying to leverage the roaster more, but making sure it's still stuff that excites us and is fun.
And not to put you too much on the spot, but there's no immediate plans to walk into your workplace someday and throw a quitting letter on the counter and say, no, take your health benefits back. I want to go open a cafe.
Based on the business plan and the current numbers of Coffeewomple, that letter is
it's not coming too soon.
Nowhere near the current plan.
All right. Well, if you change your mind, I won't tell anyone until you put that letter out.
I will let you know.
I'm trying to figure out where you find the time with a job and a business and spending time with the dogs. But I read that you, Nicole, are also part of the Women's Environmental Network, the board. I'm wondering, for either of you, we kind of ask people what what are the things that they're passionate about, if there are charities or nonprofits or efforts that they like to support. Could you tell us a little bit about that and why you find value in taking your
Yeah,
little bit of free time into it?
Right. I know. Yeah. Just another thing on the list. We don't have kids. So that's like the big, I think, thing that then people get the light bulb of, okay, yeah, if you think about how much time you're spending, on that, then I think that's part of it. And we sacrifice too. There's definitely things that we'd probably like to do these days that we give up on for the business right now as we're in that grind. But yeah, the Women's Environment Network, I joined locally. Previously, I worked for a company that didn't have a lot of female leadership. An engineering science-based space, there just are not as many women, of course. And so this was kind of an outlet for me to network with other women in the space. And it's just something that's important to me to, empower women into leadership, especially, in the sciences. But we've kind of expanded beyond that. We have folks from other industries and artists that are part of the board and that's really fun, to not just be a bunch of nerds all the time. But it's a group of women that I also leverage as we went through our packaging journey. You get people that will reach out, they'll tell you one thing because they want to sell their packaging. And then I talk to the people I work with because they work in solid waste or they work at the recycling facility. I'm like, hey, is this really recyclable? Is this really compostable? Like, what we're being told, is that actually going to happen out in practice? So it's also been awesome to have that extra due diligence to our work so we can feel good about what we say with our packaging. So yeah, passionate about that nonprofit. I know Zach has some too that he's passionate about.
Yeah, I'm president of the local ham radio club. And so we got that going. And also with that, and part of that is we report severe weather to the National Weather Service from spotters, local people on the ground. So with that, I'm also on the Metro Skywarn board. And so we see, direct impacts of climate change and everything else. Storms are getting worse. Maybe the last couple years we haven't had direct severe weather in the metro per se, which we cover the 7-county metro. But it's something we're all noting and tracking and seeing in real time, just kind of the effects of everything. So, yeah.
Can I ask how you got interested in ham radio? And could you just give us a quick what the F is a ham radio for most of the audience listening?
Yeah. So ham radio is just, you've probably seen one at like your grandfather's house or something. It's radio that the FCC lets you communicate on around the world.
Like a CB radio, a trucker CB radio for your home, right?
Exactly. Or mobile. So,
yeah. How did you get interested in that in the first place?
Oh, so I was big into kind of rally racing, and we have a Stage Forest rally here in Minnesota. And so it's a national stop on the circuit. Cars go racing through the woods as fast as they can, and they have to shut down all these little side roads and things. And so I went up as a spectator one year, and I heard all these little radios going off, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, this is the only way this event can run out in these forests is with ham radio volunteers. And I said, cool. So I looked up the nearest club to me, and yeah, it was about 6 years ago. So car racing through the woods actually got me into ham radio. And yeah.
That's like the opposite of what I was expecting, to be honest.
I know, right?
Like, I think that probably would surprise a lot of people. One of the great things that we've been able to do with this show is collect just a lot of knowledge of people starting businesses and in coffee and specifics. And Roastars asked us to be a little bit more intentional with that. And so I'm wondering if there is some advice, perhaps, that you could give us, Zach, about working with an electric roaster for anyone listening that's thinking about that, why they should consider that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, so to start off, the biggest kicker on an electric roaster and why you'd go to one is we have 98% less emissions than a gas roaster. So we just have the carbon and the steam released from the beans.
Right. And that's out the stack. That doesn't account for the fugitive emissions coming from the methane delivery system.
Correct. So it's just way more efficient to run from an environmental standpoint. The other thing is, I would say, is I can't tell the difference. You don't taste the gas and you don't taste the electricity. That it's different than, say, like wood-fired roasting or something like that, where you can taste that smoke. You just don't get that, in a commercial roaster. So then my argument was, well, why not? And the answer is because no one makes them that big for commercial roasting. So we went 2 years ago to the SCA Expo, and we're asking all the manufacturers, when are you going to have one larger than 10 kilograms? Because we wanted to not start small. I was already on a 1 kilo electric bullet. I'm like, I don't want, 2, 3, 4 kilos, because I already know what that, the time in versus time out is not like getting us there. So then when Gießen approached us that they had a 15 kilo ready to go, we said, yeah.
Did you, price-wise, comparable? I mean, in the ballpark, is it a big jump, or is there a benefit on the other side of it when you're using electricity as opposed to, say, propane or gas?
We're in a place where methane's cheap.
Gas is cheap.
So,
No.
maybe one day that will pencil out. We definitely paid a premium, both because Gießen is a really high-end, nice roaster. It's a beautiful, very well designed machine. And then the electric piece costs a little bit more too. But because we were kind of like an early mover, they gave us a little bit of a deal. Our roaster was actually on the floor at the SEA conference in Chicago, so we didn't have to pay to bring it from the Netherlands to the US. We did explore some like manufacturing domestically, and I visited some people, but no one was really very far along with anything over like a 5 kilo roaster, honestly, or like maybe 10 pounds, but nobody had anything substantial. And if we're going to spend the amount of money that we're looking at spending to do that expansion, we didn't want to, it was a go big or go home moment for sure.
It's not the cheap option when buying a roaster. Definitely not.
But there's some nuance too. Like you should share like roasting, because we roasted on gas machines as well too. Like when we took the Mill City class, and roasting on electric is different. Like you have to approach it a little bit differently for sure.
I mean, you always, at least with an electric roaster coming from an Aleo bullet, and to this Gießen, is you tend to have to throw more heat at it in the beginning. And with the bullet, if you cut your energy down too soon, that's it. I do not find that though with this Gießen. You can kind of kick it down a little bit and kind of save your profile if you're getting off track, where that was not an option before. So they really have made it extremely similar to gas. In their electric panels too, there's 3 of them underneath, and you can select 1, 2, or 3 on. So normally you'd have them all on, but if you need just a little kick in there too, you can turn just 1 on as well. So
that's all good to know, and I'm going to link to some resources on this for anyone listening. I do have one more piece of advice question I wanted to ask the two of you. You're in a unique situation where you are partners at work, partners in life. Any advice you'd give to a couple thinking about going into business together? Warnings, advice, this works, this doesn't, anything you might think might be relevant?
Yeah, I'll start. I will say that when problem solving, especially coming from 2 people that always like having the answer, when it comes to packaging or whatever it be, box sizes, when it comes to shipping coffee and starting out, is like, it's never attack on you. We're just trying to like figure out, like, you didn't make the wrong decision. It's just the never ending search for finding better ways to do things.
It's not personal.
When things come up, right, it's It's never a personal attack or whatever that may be. It's just, I think we're always trying to do things better.
For sure. Yeah. Because like for me and my background, I'm used to knowing all the answers, and I've been in my career a long enough time where it's super humbling to be bad at things. Like when you go through school, you go through your career, and you definitely make mistakes, of course. And so it's tough to have to go back to that reset where you have to relearn a bunch of new things that you think should be easy, but maybe aren't. So yeah, patience with each other for sure.
What comes next for Coffeewomple?
Hopefully a bunch of more events. We're leaning into quite a bit of retail and wholesale early this year. Our space is very fun, so people are in the area. We're trying to do more events in our roastery space. It's in this very cool building in Northeast where they used to make rye crisp crackers, actually, which is a fun fact. So yeah, I think leveraging that kind of third space that we've created with friends and family in the community, I'm excited about. Back to Zach's comment about the coffee community, the thing that I didn't realize going into this business that would be so rewarding is all of the people we've met at markets and roasters showcase other roasters along the way. That's been really fun because we would never meet those people otherwise. We're both fairly extroverted people, but you just, in our day-to-day lives, you don't come across maybe as many makers or small business owners as we do now, which is really cool.
I find it's easier just to communicate when I have a cup of coffee, and I think people feel more relaxed and normal, which is why I brewed one even though it's the afternoon, because I'm still getting used to like the knowing that I'm talking on video part. Normally I can kind of just be myself, and now I feel very aware of what is being seen at all times. Speaking of cups of coffee, when you're out in Minneapolis, which I think is a very underrated coffee community, particularly in the city, not so much the suburbs, they're catching up. What is it that you're going to order off the menu?
I'm always going to go for a pour over. Yeah. Every time. If they say they got their new favorite something on as a pour over, yes. Let me try it.
Yeah, pour over, or I'll drink a lot of drip too, right? As we're trying to figure out like who has what coffee and what it tastes like and how it's brewing. I think we need to challenge ourselves to get espresso drinks more so we get exposed to that. But at the end of the day, I just want like a black cup of coffee.
Yeah. Are you able to sit and enjoy it and not think about it from a business person's perspective?
Probably not. Are you? That's good.
Yes.
That's good compartmentalization.
I am.
No.
Anything that I missed today that you wanted me to ask that I didn't, or that we just missed?
How about Chuck?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Chuck.
We have a photo of you on our website with Chuck Patton, a recent guest on the show. How did that come about?
Yeah, Chuck's obviously a big deal, and we're not so much. But we,
Chuck acknowledged that when he looks in the mirror, he sees a legend. He told me that.
I believe that.
Oh, that's too funny. Roast, like their news outlet, wrote an article about us. And, as many coffee people get that. And then Chuck, of course, is trying to build up his business too. He reached out on Instagram, and I saw the message and I was like, who is this guy? And then I Googled who he was. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Zach, this guy who started Bird Rock reached out to us, and we were going to San Diego because Zach's cousin was getting married. I'm like, we should go meet him. How fun. And so we did.
But the reason why he reached out was because he was the first Gießen owner in the United States. And he's like, well, you guys are the first ones with an electric one. So I have a cautionary tale, and it's buy their service kit and their emergency kit, so you are not down and out. So funny enough, we emailed Gießen and we're like, hey, so can we get this emergency kit? And they're like, I don't know.
We're still working on that piece of like hopefully helpful advice. Fortunately, you're very handy. We have friends around us that are very mechanically inclined, and we're pretty savvy. But yeah, we we may need to fix our own things someday. So it would be good to get the kit. That's still on our list.
I'll introduce you to Steve from Zoom Bar Coffee, one of our very first interview we ever did on the show, who's been working on the same machine, roasting on the same machine, I think for like 22 years, and has always done the maintenance himself. And now people won't do maintenance for him, I believe, because he's done so many modifications that nobody understands, that he's the only one that can work on it. To both of you, Zach and Nicole, it's been just a real pleasure. I appreciate the time and getting to meet you. To everyone listening, you can find links that we chatted about today, including the one to coffeewomple.com, in our show notes, in our newsletter. This show is part of our Roast West Coast Coffee Network. You can find it on your favorite podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify. Please like and subscribe. I think it helps. I don't really understand algorithms. A shout out to our presenting sponsor, Roastar Incorporated, the coffee packaging company that helps small businesses tell their big story. And that's it. Thank you guys for being here, and to everyone for listening. Tip your baristas, and be sure to drink good coffee.
Thanks.